We are in chapter 15. We will start at verse 42. So those little numbers tell you that's the address. The big number is the chapter, little number is the verse. And we call that a Bible address. Just helps us identify passages easier. So we'll start in chapter 15, verse 42, looking at this guy named Joseph of Arimathea. And the thing about Joseph is that we're going to see that he's got risks for his behavior. But he decides he's got to do the right thing no matter what. He has to stand firm in the face of adversity. So today we're just calling it standing firm in the face of adversity. Because Joseph is going to remind us that even when it is inconvenient or possibly dangerous to us, we still have to do the right thing. So here we go. Mark chapter 15, verse 42. We're just coming off of the crucifixion where Jesus was killed. And when evening had come, since it was the day of preparation, that is the day before the Sabbath, Joseph of Arimathea, a respected member of the council, who was also himself looking for the kingdom of God, took courage and went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Pilate was surprised to hear that he should have already died. And summoning the centurion, he asked him whether he was already dead. And when he learned from the centurion that he was dead, he granted the corpse to Joseph. And Joseph brought a linen shroud, and taking him down, wrapped him in the linen shroud and laid him in a tomb that had been cut out of a rock. And he rolled a stone against the entrance of the tomb. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Joseph, saw where he was laid. It's a fascinating little section here. I mean, it's really just a small paragraph, but it's got some big points for us. The first is that we must act with integrity even when it is dangerous. Joseph, this guy, had no personal stake in it. He could have just left everything alone, not done anything, kept his head down. But he knew that he had to do the right thing by taking Jesus' body off the cross and preparing it for burial. Now, he is one of the leaders, a respected person. So for him to associate himself with Jesus, he runs a risk. Maybe personal embarrassment or shame or ridicule. Like, wait a minute. This guy's one of the respected members of the council. And this man on the cross who has just been crucified there as a criminal, why are you taking care of his body? So Joseph is risking his own reputation to do this. However, there are other ways that people might come against us for what we believe, what we think is the right thing to say and do. And you got to ask yourselves, how am I going to act when I am faced with adversity? When I face trouble for doing the right thing, am I going to stick to it and do the right thing? Or am I going to turn and do the easy thing? The second thing I want to point out from this little passage is that Joseph prioritized faith over fear. Mark says very clearly, Joseph, who himself was looking for the kingdom of God, took courage and went to Pilate to ask for the body of Jesus. See, Joseph was a seeker. He knew that God was doing something, and he'd been waiting to see the coming of the kingdom of God. And he knew that Jesus was connected to it. So he stepped up. He took courage and went and did this thing. He prioritized his faith over his fear. Joseph's devotion in the burial of Jesus is a good demonstration for us of what we should be doing and the kind of courage that we can find that God can give us. Now, courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. Courage means you are acting in spite of being afraid. If you were not afraid, it wouldn't be courage. It might be stupidity. Right? Have you ever met people who aren't smart enough to know they should be afraid? They're not smart enough to know they should be concerned. And you're just like, dude, This is really dangerous. Are you sure I'll be fine, I'll be fine. But courage says, I understand the risks and I'm going to do it anyway. We give medals to Marines who are in the fight, who know the risks. And when a grenade comes in, they jump on the grenade to protect their battle buddies. They know the risks. They understand what's going to happen, but that's courage. Despite the risk, stepping up to act anyway. That's what Joseph does. He knows the risks, but he takes courage because he prioritizes his faith over his fear. Guys, that's got to be us in our lives. We have to prioritize our faith over our fear, and that requires us to put our trust in God. That we trust God's purpose over our own fears, that we trust God's plan over our own ideas. Just as Joseph of Arimathea exhibited faith and took courage, even when the world could have come against him. In daily life, we've got to ask, am I going to put my faith over my fear? The third thing I want to point out is that we've got to stand firm for righteousness in all circumstances. Proverbs 21 tells us, whoever pursues righteousness and love finds life, prosperity, and honor. You see, Joseph pursued doing the right thing, the righteous thing. We have to be champions for righteousness in every situation. That means we have to be people who try to bring positive change to the world around us. It is not enough to sit back and say, I'm not going to get involved. Standing firm for righteousness in all circumstances means we have to take a stand. It means sometimes making our voices heard. It's saying, no, there is a right and there is a wrong. And I believe in doing the right thing, even when it is the hard thing. The question we got to ask ourselves when we look in the mirror is, will we choose to act with integrity and courage and stand for what is right, like Joseph of Arimathea did? Or are we going to choose to keep our heads down? Not to do the hard thing, but choose an easy path because it's easier for us personally. Joseph could have just left well enough alone, not done anything. But Mark says he stepped up with courage to do the right thing. My prayer for me, for my family, for you guys as my spiritual family, is that we can step up and act with courage to do the right thing even when it is the hard thing.